Okay, awesome. The simulation is glitching hard. The alternate timeline that we're on really sucks, but we are now recording. Welcome back to Colonial Outcasts, your friendly anti-imperialist podcast. Now, it's Tuesday. We've had like 72 hours to look at the Trump assassination attempt and be like, what the F over? That was a doozy. And today we're going to be doing something fun that no one else is doing, which is why you should definitely like, share, and subscribe to the Colonial Outcast channel, because we're going to be talking about the Trump assassination. We're going to be kind of having a cordial discourse from the perspective of someone who's not a conspiracy theorist whatsoever, just believes in absolute government incompetence, period. I feel like I could explain away all the stupid things that happened. And then we've got Mark, who is our resident conspiracy theory expert, and we're just going to go after it. Was it just complete Secret Service and interdepartmental incompetence? Or was it something deeper and more conspiratorial? And we'll be getting into that. We'll also be going into like the really unhinged, into the weeds stuff. So, yep, I think we're just like ready to start. How you doing, Mark? You ready to get into this?
Good, bro. And I just want you to know you're the Dana Scully to my Fox Mulder. I want you to know that.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I do feel kind of like hot in a really 90s jazzercise sort of way. So excellent. You know what? I have never thought of our conspiracy verse, like not conspiracy. Oh God, it's been a long week already. Dichotomy that we have going on, dynamic. So yeah,
it's healthy. Look where they got. Look where Fox Mulder, Dana Scully, they found a fucking UFO in Antarctica, bro. So don't underestimate this dynamic we got.
They found a whole lot more than that. They found alien human hybrids too, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Speaking of which, I think the theme of this episode should be based on the title, subtext of X-Files. I want to believe. And I'm gonna we're gonna circle back to that later. I'm gonna explain.
Cool. So in the meantime, in case you guys were living under a rock, there was an assassination attempt against former President Trump at a rally on Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania. So yeah, I think if it was an assassination attempt, they picked the worst gunman possible. If you guys aren't tracking, we're just going to be, I'm just going to like give you the rundown. And sorry if you already have been following this story closely, but just for completeness and journalistic whatever, we've got to. So 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks was identified by the FBI on Sunday as the shooter behind the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump during a campaign rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday evening. That left one bystander dead, 50-year-old firefighter, and two others critically injured. They are stable, and I think they're going to recover. So first of all, just hitting the bullet points with the shooter. The FBI says Crooks was not known to the agency prior to the incident. He has no indication or history of any prior mental health issues, also no criminal record. He had a limited social media presence. Authorities, quote, have not yet identified an ideology associated with Crooks. The agency is interviewing his family and friends and investigating his phone and internet history for any evidence as it seeks to understand his motivations. And if you followed anything like this before, coming up with this kind of personal information and making a determination on motivation or, you know, intent, that can take time. Like this is going to be ongoing for months. So we're just basing everything that we're talking about on this episode based off the limited information that we have now, 72 hours after the shooting itself. So President Joe Biden said on Sunday he urged people to refrain from making assumptions. Let the FBI do their job and their partner agencies do their job, he said. So this guy's kind of all over the place politically, it seems. Again, we can't really even say that because we have limited information. So he was a registered Republican and he was a donor to progressives. So state public voting records show that Crooks was a registered Republican, while federal election commission documents show that a donor with the same name and address gave $15 to Act Blue, the Democratic fundraising apparatus, on January 20th, 2021. the date of President Joe Biden's inauguration. So the donation was earmarked for the Progressive Turnout Project. Look, as I said last night on State of Play on Mint Press News, his personal details don't really matter with respect to the attempt on Saturday. Personally, for me, Mark may have a different perspective, which we'll get into presently. But his unorthodox background, lack of political manifesto makes him seem like kind of a cipher, like a mysterious, and therefore it's all rife for conspiracy theories. And I believe it is my job to give alternatives to conspiracy by talking about natural incompetence, how interagency screw-ups happen all the time, why they happen even within elite units, and why, from my experience in military special operations, I've come to believe through my own observations in Hanlon's razor or Occam's razor. Never attribute to malice, which is adequately explained by stupidity. So just real quick, I know Mark's chomping at the bit to get into it, but I just have to say, in philosophy, a razor is a principle or rule of thumb that allows one to eliminate, literally shave off, unlikely explanations for a phenomenon or avoid unnecessary action. So Occam's razor, which is basically like the fewer moving parts, applies to dismissing the idea of deep state interference. So we're going to apply a razor here, and you can take it or leave it. We don't have to agree on everything. Unlikely explanations or phenomena. Yeah. So, but these are counter arguments to conspiracy that are helpful to be aware of. So first, I think we can all agree that neutralizing a shooter that gets off 8 shots, kills a spectator, injures 2 more, and hits a former president in the head is not a win. There are egregious failures in coverage and protocol within law enforcement and the Secret Service at the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on Saturday. And so whether or not you believe it's just police incompetence or a conspiracy theory, we can all agree on one thing. The law enforcement just let that dude walk straight in there into the most advantageous shooting position so far. Imaginable. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how Secret Service works, how interdictions work, why there could have been a failure. And then after we give what I think is like a really valid explanation for just incompetence, we're going to go into the conspiracies after that. But we can all agree on the memes. And I'm going to show you my favorite meme before we get started. So if you're just listening, it's the end scene from the Titanic where Rose is like walking up to meet like Leo's frozen dead character in a dream sequence. And it says, the FBI and Secret Service watching some kid with a rifle trying to access a rooftop next to Donald Trump at a rally.
Stairway to heaven, baby.
Yeah. And honestly, it should have been impossible. As I said, like last night, anyone with basic experience in close protection can credibly tell you that this should not have been possible. Incompetence, intelligence failings, understaffing, lack of equity, and other excuses may be rolled out and already have been rolled out. I was listening to NPR earlier this morning, and they're starting to roll out like, we just didn't have the resources. But the fact remains, this should not have been possible. So for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to give you a quick breakdown about like closed security 101. So first of all, when the Secret Service and the FBI are completely two distinct organizations. The FBI is part of the Department of Justice and investigates crimes after they happen. They also do some preventative counterterrorism stuff. We got it. The Secret Service, however, is attached to the Department of Treasury, which is still a federal government, or government institution, but they don't really do the same kind of investigations. Yes, they investigate financial crimes and stuff like that because they're part of the Department of Treasury, but one of their big things is personal or close protection, which the FBI doesn't really do. But the FBI still liaises with the Secret Service, obviously. So now the FBI was going to investigate now that the crime was happening, but until the crime happened, it was the Secret Service's purview. But now that the crime has happened, the FBI is going to take over. That's just how the delineation of capabilities and responsibilities work. So before that,
Yeah.
basically every time the president or former president or presidential candidate or senior political figure in the United States goes to speak somewhere or goes to an event, the Secret Service will send an advanced team. I'm not sure how big the team is, but they scout the ground. They start making connections with local law enforcement, state law enforcement, because you're dealing with all these different departments. You have federal law enforcement, like the FBI. Then you've got Department of Treasury, Secret Service. You have state law enforcement. Then you have local law enforcement. You have a bunch of different moving parts working together. So the Secret Service will send in an advanced team, plug into the local police intelligence networks, and start like assessing nearby threats on the ground. And they'll like walk the perimeter, go through all the buildings, or they should have gone through all the buildings. Then they'll look at where he's speaking, look at different vantage points where a sniper could engage. They'll look at maps and look at the roads. What are points of ingress to the location? And they'll start making a plan from there. That's what the advanced team does. Okay. So this whole operation was effed from the beginning. All right. Before we get into how, the advanced team should have from the very start recognized that rooftop where the sniper was shooting, and I'm going to bring up a graphic here in a second, should have known that was like one of the most obvious vantage points. So when it comes to personal security, there are a number of different elements within like the Secret Service and accompanying law enforcement attached units. So there are the Secret Service guys in suits. They have the headphones that you see in the movies. They're personal body men and close protection for the president, former president, senior senators, whatever. Okay, those are the one you see. Now and those are high visibility, high vis guys. There's also low vis guys in plain clothes going through the crowd, and you wouldn't necessarily know they're Secret Service agents unless you know what to look for. Cop jeans, sneakers. It's like, oh, that guy's Secret Service. So, Oakley's.
Looking totally gnarly.
Yeah, honestly, because everybody at a Trump rally, I guess, dresses like a cop. I think it makes the Secret Service guys probably blend in real easy. So you have the low vis guys going. Okay, then you have a counter assault team. So a counter assault team is guys who are going to interdict like a vehicle busting through the gate full of like a bunch of shooters, right? Like there's a group of people trying to assault the president. So there's a counter assault team. They're the guys you'll see in like full tactical kit, multicam, ops core helmets with assault rifles. And they're also high vis because they're meant to act as a deterrent as well. They want to be seen. So that's the counter assault team. And then the fourth kind of element that we have is a counter sniper team. Okay. So basically their job is to scan locations, to look for snipers, acquire targets, identify them as a threat, and then neutralize them. So I'm going to pull up some stuff, a thing real quick. I'm going to verbally describe it for those of you who are just listening to the audio. So here we go. Right now we're looking at an aerial view. We've got the Trump stage in an open field. There's 3 sheds, large warehouse sheds behind it. There was one sniper position right behind the stage that had overwatch of like some nearby surrounding trees and the location of the shooter's vantage point, which was approximately 400 to 450 feet from Trump speaking on the stage. It was actually kind of an easy shot. He should have been able to make it, but we're going to get into why he didn't, or one of the reasons why he didn't. So it's like literally the closest vantage point that he could access that law enforcement wasn't on, that had a clear line of sight to where Trump was speaking. It's absurd that he wasn't that wasn't cleared, that there wasn't a law enforcement officer on there. Okay, now going down, I just wanted to bring this up. So there was one counter sniper position that the Secret Service was using and law enforcement was using. There is also a 40-foot water tower behind the sniper position that Thomas Crooks assumed right? So they could have had, there's a water tower. It's 40 feet. It had complete vantage of everything. They would have had intersecting coverage from these two different positions, but they only had one position. And this may be because they didn't have enough resources. They only had one counter sniper team. So they had to start making decisions on where to place them. And they've already said this morning. You could be like, of course they'd say that. Of course they would say, but I mean, if they only had one counter sniper team, it does make sense that they'd be behind the podium where Trump was. Now, that is something we have to take into consideration. So now I'm going to play a huge super cut of all of these social media videos of the shooter, of Trump speaking. It's going to take about 5 minutes. And then I'm going to bring up some points that I think are very salient for just being like, this is completely incompetent. And then I'll be done, and then Mark's going to send it. Okay, present video file. I think this is the right one, number 4. Okay. And we're playing.
If he was doing his job, I wouldn't even be doing this. I'd be at some beautiful place with a gorgeous ocean.
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
All right, so what we're looking at is a cut of news footage of Trump speaking, and the audio synced up with a TikTok video that says plenty of time and opportunity to eliminate the threat. What the fuck? So we're at 0.9. We're at 9 seconds into this whole timeline. The audio is synced up. So this is right where people are noticing that there is a man climbing on the roof.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there. See him? He's laying down. See him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
Okay, so he's laying down. That immediately is a red flag because the most stable shooting position, period, unless you have like some sort of high-speed tripod, and even then, prone's, I think, is just the best, is going to be shooting from the prone, which means you're laying down. Your body is the most stable it can be. So that is always a red flag. If someone's on a roof, it's like, why are you laying down, dude? So this is when they start telling police officers.
Could be getting a suntan, though. That's also a possibility. That is also another scenario where you're laying down, getting a suntan. And you would do it on the roof.
You would do it on the roof, but would you do it in cargo pants and a long sleeve shirt?
No, but if I'm taking them off later, yeah. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay. You're trying to be a real devil's advocate here.
I'm being the skeptic. You notice it? I'm trying to take after you a little bit.
Okay. So so this is going to be there are different security zones. So the inner perimeter will be Secret Service and stuff. The outer perimeter will be local and state law enforcement. So this is they tell a local law enforcement officers like, hey, there's someone on the roof. Now, how the chain of communications works, because all these different departments are working together, they have a TOC, a tactical operations command, or a tactical operations center, excuse me. And that's probably going to be on site. So this local law enforcement officer has to call it up to the TOC. Then a local law enforcement officer and the TOC has to turn to the Secret Service liaison and be like, hey, we got someone on the roof over here. Then the Secret Service liaison has to call the counter sniper team to visually check what's going on. Now, here's what I think is happening personally. As of right now, based off the information I have, the counter sniper team sees this guy on the roof. They probably identify a gun. We don't have their communications because the FBI still has that, so we have no idea what they're saying on the radio. What I think, though, is the counter sniper team sees this guy on the roof with a gun, and they're like, okay, is he one of ours? Is this like a sheriff's deputy who didn't call it up? Because that should be covered. You know, someone from law enforcement should be on that roof just to deny access to the vantage point. So if I'm a sniper, I do have rules of engagement. I'm not going to want to just shoot another law enforcement officer. So I think he's going to call down from the sniper is going to call back to the TOC, to the Secret Service liaison. Secret Service liaison is going to turn to the local law enforcement liaison and be like, hey, do you have any guys on the roof right now? He's like, I'm checking right now. So they're making a bunch of calls to different units and different team leaders, trying to figure out if they have anybody on the roof. And that's how they lose a minute. That's how they lose 45 seconds.
Okay. And son, I'm here with you fighting like hell to get a senator.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look.
And it's
There he
not
is.
easy. because we have millions and millions
I will say that this is taking a long
of
time.
people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here. And it's much tougher than if it happened to me.
And one thing I have to say, he got on the roof, apparently, based on the information I've been exposed to, with a ladder. So they should have swept for ladders to make sure there was no roof access. Whether that ladder was pre-staged or a maintenance guy put it there, they should have removed all the ladders. They did not sweep this area properly.
Ever. In recorded history, we're the best border. In fact, if they could ever put up a chart, I don't know if they can do it. Do you guys have access to that chart that I love so much?
You have access to that chart that, yo, you guys get ready for hearing this motherfucker's voice for the next 4 years. Just get ready.
You don't mind if I go off teleprompter, do you? Because these teleprompters
They love when he just mouth vomits for days.
are so damn boring. I try and explain that. Oh, there's it. Wow. You guys are doing it. They're getting better with time. My guys.
All right, now we're at a whole minute.
Take a look at that chart. Take a look at the arrow on the bottom. See the big red arrow, right? So that's when I left office. That was the lowest point, and that comes right from the government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a look at that. So that arrow.
All right, now we're at a minute and 30 since a law enforcement officer has been, according to the video evidence that we have, been notified.
Is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history into our country. And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country.
Okay, so now we see another social media video. You have plainclothes officers running towards the rooftop.
Probably.
You have a guy from the counter assault team in between two flags. You guys see there on the left, the bottom left. He's in full tactical gear. He's not a counter sniper. He's a counter assault guy. They're all trying to converge on this building. It's a minute and 50 seconds into the video evidence that we have.
20 million people.
And he's just walking.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And
Someone yells he's got a gun.
if you want to really see some.
So if you look at the top right quarter, now you see the sniper position, the Secret Service sniper position. You've got one guy spotting with binoculars. You've got another guy looking through the scope, trained on the shooter. Right before shots go off, he takes his head off the scope. See? You see that right there, Mark?
Yeah.
So what I talked about this in greater detail last night. We're getting towards the 30-minute mark. I'm almost done. So he shoots twice. The first shot goes past Trump's head. It's a miss. And how bullets work, by the time you hear a bullet, because they're supersonic, it's already past you. So he hears the first bullet, it's already past him. He turns, and then the second bullet appears to clip his ear. And then the shooter sees that he missed, so he starts breaking shots. He breaks 6 more shots, hits 3 people. And then you heard the sound signature of those bullets. The Secret Service snipers, you're going to hear, because they have a different sound signature because they're using different caliber rounds, you're going to hear the return shot in a second.
I hope he's turning this way. Be careful, guys.
See, okay, so that was the sniper shot that took him out. So it does seem like it took him a while to engage. You know, I will say that.
Just a little.
So let's pull that back before we get into the conspiracy theory world. Okay, so that was the last shots he took right there. Now the time to re-engage.
I hope he's turning this way. Be careful, guys.
It's like almost 10 seconds, man. It's a lot, especially when you guys already knew where he was. Yeah. Just I have to admit that was a long re-engagement. So, and then before we end, then the Secret Service mobbed around Trump almost instantly. So, hard to make me believe that they were in on it. And then one video that went viral was some creepy lady behind Trump. I don't know if you saw this. Oh, we're gonna bring that one up.
No, I was trying to transfer it over to my computer. I couldn't do that. But do you have it?
I think so. Let me check.
That'd be great.
And then
So Trump gets exfilled, and then
I think they.
Watch. No. Watch this shit, dude. Watch.
okay. So there's a lady in sunglasses and a hat behind Trump, and she after the shots are fired, she doesn't flinch, and then she starts recording him. And then everybody's freaking out about this.
Watch. She sits down. Yep. Watch this.
If you
Puts the sign up.
Something that said, take a look at what happened.
shots go off.
She's completely normal. And then watch.
And then
Cool as a cucumber.
What the fuck? What the fuck? People are freaking out.
And she's filming.
And she's just right there.
This guy's obviously Canadian.
She's not even freaking the fuck out.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that is weird. I will admit that is weird. But hang on, let me get this off stage real quick. All right. So yeah, but then again, does that mean it's a conspiracy? So for me, the poor planning, the lack of resources, general incompetence of police in general, the hazards, the difficulties that always come between interagency cooperation and general complacency does, for me, account for everything that happened. And the fact that he missed, well, this Thomas Crooks guy, he was a notoriously bad shot. It was an easy shot. It was a really easy shot to make. But then again, there is a history of him trying out for the junior varsity shooters rifle team in high school and him not making it. And that he didn't even own a gun. This was his father's gun. So also, he's not an experienced shooter because he went for the headshot. It's much more effective to aim center mass because even if you miss a little bit, you're at least going to hit him, and then you can follow up with a second shot to take him out.
But knowing presidents probably have body armor, you would have to go for a headshot, right?
Is that a thing? Presidents wear body armor?
I'm sure President Trump wears body armor.
I've never seen. Dude, there's no way President Trump wears body armor. He would literally be sweating out cheeseburgers. We can double check. Okay.
Yeah, we'll double check. But yeah.
Anyways, it was a really easy shot. It was 400 feet. He had plenty of time to get in a position. He was shooting from the prone. He's been shooting since he was a kid. But then again, he was just not a very competent shooter. So maybe the zero was off. Maybe, I don't know. But he took multiple shots and he failed. So for me, I am satisfied that it was just general incompetence and a bunch of things that happen when you're working between different departments. But what are other people saying? That's what I'm curious, and that's why you are going to dominate the second half of this episode. I'm just curious.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want you to know this is why I love you, bro. It's you just go for the straight, logical, most down to earth explanation, and I love it. It grounds me. You are the Dana Scully to my Fox Mulder. That being said, though, okay, I would buy that if this wasn't the easiest sector to secure on planet Earth. This was not an urban environment. This was a fucking field with not that many buildings when you consider it. When you consider an urban environment, even DC, even Washington, D.C., on the White House lawn has more vulnerabilities than this area, right? So not a lot of buildings. So you're telling me this guy took a fucking ladder to the building and crawled up there with here's my question to you, though. I mean,
apparently it was already there. So either it was pre-staged or it was just he had scoped the site out before.
Okay, but the Secret Service is not going to be like, oh, what's this ladder doing here? I don't know, Bob. Get back to your job, dude. Who cares? I mean, I don't know, man. It's pre-staged. That's even weird. Well, Here's the thing. And look, I understand you're Ranger. I'm National Guard. Definitely, you got more expertise in security. But okay, there's usually multiple layers of security. So you got like the inner Secret Service. Then you have another circle, another perimeter. And then you have another perimeter outside of that. So basically, you can't even enter the general facility, let's say a half mile out, right? Because and like you said, the advanced team, when they go in, they have the first thing they do is they stand where the president's going to be standing, and then they have an expert that looks at the vantage points and says, okay, there, and they put out the possible sectors of fire, right? Well, this was like the easiest scenario to do that. This is like, imagine you're in Chicago, like put this stage in Chicago, downtown Chicago, fucking nightmare. 1,000 fucking windows looking at you, 1,000 roofs, 1,000 little corners in the street. This was like, oh, that one and that one. Okay. Simple, right? So, and then, okay, so how did this guy penetrate the outer security, like the outermost ring? And then where's the security that's just kind of roaming, that's patrolling the whole area to create this kind of shield around the area, you know, right? And obviously the response time when people are like, hey, guys, shooter right there. He's like right up there. You don't even have to look for him, guys. It's like he's right there. And the cops, and now there was I don't know if you saw the BBC interview with that one guy, they call him Carrot Top. I'll ring this up real quick so you can. One second.
Well, while you do bring it up, I would like to just say, like, communications between different agencies.
I get that.
Time.
I'm taking all that into account. I understand that happens. I understand there's incompetency. I understand there's dumbasses, but even a Boy Scout security detail, just to get your merit badge, would have covered this. And we're not talking like you don't really have to be that competent for this. You can be the most stupidest local hired security guard ever. Your average security contractor would have caught this. You don't have to be Secret Service. This is an easy scenario for them. Now that being said, okay, let me pull this up.
We can just pull it up already. Okay, cool.
You see it? Okay.
Okay.
It up. How do I fucking? Okay.
Jesus Christ! All right.
So we walked up, and probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking. I'm estimating here. I have no idea, but we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, and we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof, we can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
So you're certain that the shots came from that guy on the roof?
100%. 100%.
And he was up there for a couple of minutes.
He was up there.
You saw him up there for a couple of minutes.
Absolutely. At least 3 to 4 minutes.
And you were telling police and the Secret Service.
We were telling the police. We were pointing at him for the Secret Service, who were looking at us from the top of the barn. They were looking at us the whole time when we were standing by that tree.
Could they see
binoculars?
Could they see him?
Probably not, because the roof, the way the slope went, he was behind where they could see. But why is there not Secret Service on all of these roofs here? I mean, this is not a big place.
Did you see, obviously everyone, when the shooting started, everyone was very panicked. Did you see what happened to him at all?
Oh, yeah, they blew his head off.
Okay, sorry.
Secret Service blew his head off.
Okay, we just be careful because we don't quite know who's watching, but you're pretty sure they shot the guy?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
You saw that happen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you see them go up to him afterwards, or?
Okay.
All right, cool.
right.
So
So-
just one thing. Cops being like, what's going on? Not surprising. But 3 to 4 minutes is a long time.
I'll hand that one to you too. After the Uvalde shooting, it's like, dude, what fucking good are they for anything, dude? If not to protect kids. Like, yeah. So okay, got it. But still, you have the easiest layout of, coverage of sectors of fire. And you have not only that, you have crowdsourcing. Literally crowdsourcing. People aiding law enforcement, saying right there. Okay, now let's get into the conspiracy part of it. Now, what's interesting about this particular situation is that there are competing conspiracy theories depending on what side of the aisle you are on, which is really interesting. It's fascinating to me. So on the Trump side, of course, you have the obvious conspiracy theory that this is the Democrats trying to take out Trump because he's going to bring the United States into freedom and he's the Messiah who's going to rescue us from the deep state. So that's the Trump side of the conspiracy theory.
How prevalent would you say that is within Trump circles? Is that like a fringe, or is that what like everybody's like talking about?
It's hard to say what the pie chart looks like, but I can tell you that a lot of them think this, at least the most dedicated fans. Okay. Now, and then of course you have the left side, which is saying that this was staged to
bolster Trump,
bolster support, because historically speaking, whenever a assassination attempt is on a president, they win in a landslide in an election. It's just historical, and this is throughout history. This isn't just in the United States. This is a global trend. Okay, now here's where I'm at. You said that you use Occam's razor. Okay, here. And I like what Trav said one time. He says that the most likely scenario is the one that you don't have to use a lot of you don't
moving parts,
jump to a lot of conclusions to do. You don't have to do a long leap. Okay, I like that. And that's why this is suspicious to me, because you have to make a lot of leaps to come to the conclusion that all of this was just a shit show, happenstance, thing of incompetence. I understand you have incompetence in law enforcement. I understand that. But even with that incompetence taken into account, you still have the easiest layout of coverage. You still have, even if you were not competent security, you would still have the security there, different layers. And somebody would notice a guy with a rifle putting a fucking ladder or a pre-staged ladder crawling up the roof in plenty of time to do it. Plus, who the fuck wouldn't want to be a hero in that scenario? If you're a Trump fan or you're a law enforcement, wouldn't you want to be the guy who's super amped up to stop an assassination attempt? So you have that, bro adrenaline going on, obviously. And what better way to get some street cred with the fucking Trump crowd than being like, bro, assassin, I'm going to take him out. I'm going to be a hero. No. I mean, you have that layer too. Okay. Now, as far as conspiracy theories, I'm just going to say this. Prior to all this happening, Trump had a big problem. I don't know if you noticed that, but Trump was really starting to have a problem in his own base, or his former base. This happened around the time of the debate, after the debate with Joe Biden.
He was already looking fucking fantastic after that debate amongst his own base, though.
Okay, yes, among some of his audience. But then you have a lot of former Trump supporters or former Trump believers who were starting to see Israel as a pariah themselves and starting to see them as a leech on the United States, and then kind of starting to buy into the pro-Palestinian narrative that Israel is bad for the United States and they are kind of fucking us over. I mean, conspiracy theories are rife in the Trump world. And among those conspiracy theories, you have of course, the conspiracy theories of the Zionists trying to control the United States. Now, when the debate happened and Trump and Biden had this fucking competition on who's going to suck Israel's dick the hardest, I think that moment was when a lot of his supporters were like, bro, this he's just another fucking Biden. I saw that trend happening on social media in right-wing circles. I was paying attention. So Trump had a problem. People are starting to suspect that Trump is just another attachment to the Zionist machine. All right. Now, whether that came from like the anti-Semitism that is in the right wing, or whether it came into just people like being like, dude, we're being controlled by Zionists and he is part of the deep state. All right. So Trump had this problem going on, and the chatter was going throughout the internet about this. All right. Now, the only way you could rescue yourself from such a decline in faith is to have an assassination attempt on your life and then survive it. Now, what's really weird about this whole scenario is okay, Trump is starting to decline in his popularity and people are starting to be suspicious of him. Assassination attempt, grazes the ear. Victoriously, he rises from the crowd, fist up, perfect photo shoot, American flag in the background, a freeze frame, boom. It was the perfect photo op, bro. The perfect photo op.
Yeah.
So,
look, sometimes those just happen, and I
sometimes
just want
they
to.
just happen.
Okay, but hang on. So there are some assumptions being made here. If they wanted like some sort of high speed, sexy shot to go off to like graze the president, but make sure he was okay in the end, they literally picked the worst shooter they could have. A guy who couldn't even qualify for his junior varsity rifle team. It was just, and also it's not Hollywood. Like there aren't anyone there's no one who could like pick the wings off a fly with a bullet. Like it's a highly dangerous operation to make the assumption that they were going to shoot rounds at President Trump from this random 20-year-old with no prior political allegiance. Like it just kind of beggars belief.
Well, you know what's funny about this is actually it was these left-wing guys, these social media influencers that I follow on Instagram that were actually putting out this conspiracy theory that when Trump went to go reach for his ear, on the camera it looked as if he had something yellow in his hand, and then he comes back, smears blood, and there's no blood on his hand. So there's theories going around that Trump just wiped blood on his ear with the blood pack. There's all kinds of stuff going around. All I'm saying is like, yeah, this guy's a shitty shooter. A shitty shooter, like you said, it's not Hollywood. You can't just like plan to just graze the ear. It doesn't work that way. You have windage. You have a lot of factors going on. You got the humidity. It takes a lot of calculations to be that accurate. It really takes an Olympian shooter, even from that range, to like actually plan inches away from his ear. I understand that. So that's not possible. But the theory is like, what if he didn't get shot in the ear at all? Like, what if that wasn't even a thing? Like, what if like he just blood? So I mean,
but still, bullets were fired. Someone died. 2 people are in the hospital. Those things are confirmed, incontrovertible facts.
Now what's funny is if you go on social media, you look at the comment section, and people you have a lot of people saying this is staged, and then Trump supporters are coming out saying, no, it's not. Are you fucking insane? Then what? Explain why a person died. Then was that staged? It's like, dude, just because somebody died doesn't mean it's not staged. Like somebody died, it doesn't mean they weren't sacrificed for the sake of the photo op. That's right. That's right. So, but what's so funny about this is I'm talking outside the conspiracy. Is the social studies about this is the first time that extreme right-wing Trumpers are not conspiracy theorists and they're calling the left conspiracy theorists. It's just hilarious to watch that happen on social media. Like they're being like, it's not a conspiracy theory, you fucking tinfoil hat motherfucker. And just
it's like yeah, but you still believe the election was stolen. So
yeah, exactly. So it's hilarious to watch the dynamics just shift in this country, man. I can't keep up. Now, again, where I'm at is I'm actually not, I don't know, like you. I'm not confident either way, but I will say that if I wanted to rescue my numbers of people like losing faith in me and losing confidence in me, and of course he's going to win the election. I'm not saying that he was about to lose the election. That's not what I'm saying. See, what's equally important as Trump winning the election is how many people are emotionally invested in him. Because if they want a dictator, if they want a guy to take that throne and really push some tyrannical policies, you still have to have the population emotionally on board with it instead of just electing him. And this is what this is about. I believe that if this was a conspiracy, then the goal of the conspiracy is to get his base even more fired up for him so that no matter what he says, any policy he pushes through, whether it be Project 2025, if he pushes that through, is that everybody is emotionally invested in whatever his orders are. So a dictator can't just have power politically. He also has to have the masses emotionally invested in them, like Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, Joseph Stalin, all those guys. You have to have those two factors: political power, obviously, and the will of the people behind you. And the way to do that is get people emotionally invested in you. And what better way to get somebody emotionally invested in somebody? Oh, fuck, he almost got assassinated. The deep state almost took him out. So, anyways.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you in principle, for sure. I think one of the reasons I don't get too invested in conspiracy theories in general is like, because whether or not they did happen, the performative effect is the same. Whether or not 9/11 was actually, because of massive breach and incompetence and complacency within the U.S. intelligence apparatus, or it was an inside job. I mean, they still would have used, the imperialists still would have used it as an excuse to launch multiple illegal wars and bomb the poorest countries on earth. Just like this, whether it was a conspiracy or not, well, Trump's our next president. And according to an Axios report, an unnamed senior House Democrat just stated that we've all resigned ourselves to a second Trump presidency. So the DNC is in shambles, and even the most ardent and optimistic Biden supporters must see the writing on the wall. Even if the president was replaced by a potential dark horse candidate at the 11th hour, I don't know who could compete with, as you said, one of the most iconic political photographs of the past decade. So
I even without this stunt, he still is going to win.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, at this point, I don't think the goal is for him to win the election. He's already got that in the bag because there ain't no way Biden's winning. The goal now is to get as many Americans as possible to be emotionally invested in and look at him as the Messiah. Because if we can get him looking as a Messiah, then any policies he pushes through, they'll be like, tyranny, fuck yeah, as long as it's Trump, bruh. But I mean, that's gonna be like, that's the goal. You have to get the population behind the dictator, or else fails.
And democracy dies to a thunderous applause. But and there's nobody, there's no political force, it seems, that can fight MAGA world right now. Ultimately the Democratic Party lacks vitality. Their main candidate who they back to the hilt is an old guy who can't even say ballot box. He said battle box twice during his speech from the Oval Office on Sunday. And the desperation behind the old adage, vote blue no matter who, is transforming into like political fatalism. They know they're going to lose, but they're just not going to come up with another candidate because they think it will make them look weak or something. But what it comes down to is like, what is Trumpism? It's blaming the horrible conditions of life in America right now, the disparity between the rich and the poor. They're blaming it on like immigrants, like they're taking your jobs. Other poor people are making you poor. It's not the capitalist class that has monopolized.
It's not the elite. It's not the Epstein crowd. Forget the Epstein crowd. That's the old news, guys. Don't worry about those guys. Don't worry about.
Yeah, and here's my thing. Like, the efforts by the DNC and associated media outlets to discredit the former president have only served to like endear him to his base and reduce a mounting social, economic, and political maelstrom into the figure of Trump. It's like, it's all Trump. It's like, it's not the entire system, the uniparty system that is America. It's all Trump. So I think the vast... sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, the Trump, I always tell people this. People who hate Trump and are so like impassionate against him, and they're so emotionally invested in him negatively. I'm like, listen, Trump is a fucking symptom. Like, you have to expect that a guy like Trump would be popular, because if you're branding yourself as the savior, the guy to fight the system that's causing everybody to suffer, you would put out a Trump. You would put out a controlled opposition dude like Trump to say, hey, guys, I'm going to save you from the swamp. And you have to understand the psychology behind Americans looking for somebody like that. Trump is the answer to a problem that they've presented as the answer. So I always explain to people who, hate Trump, it's like, look, you can hate Trump, yeah, but you got to hate what brought him into popularity. You got to hate that even more, because there's 1,000 billion Trumps out there in the world. There's 1,000 billion Mussolinis and fucking Hitlers. and Netanyahu's. There's a lot of them out there. It's what brings those guys to power and platforms those guys. That's the problem. And the corruption in Washington, that's the problem. The elites fucking all of us over with their policies and their handshaking and their backroom deals. That's screwing us over. Obviously not any immigrants at all. They're not causing a problem at all for us when it comes to the grand scheme of things in the United States. So
yeah,
Trump is a symptom, and people,
yeah, I think,
and the Democrats don't fucking understand that shit, obviously.
Or they do, they don't care because it won't affect them. As I say, like the vast corporate forces that dominate our political system have reduced the middle class, instigated a state of perpetual war and interventionism, and created a solidifying police and security state that will not be significantly affected by who sits in the Oval Office. The president's whoever sits in the Oval Office is not going to affect the end game agenda. So, it's, and also, I mean, if you're rich enough and you're secure enough and you're politically protected enough, compromising the rights of and the civil liberties of people on the bottom, the marginalized people within a country, don't really matter to you because you're not going to be affected. If you control the strings of power, it doesn't really matter. So it is true that under a renewed Trump presidency, we have to admit, we will experience an unprecedented level of systemic change in terms of personal environmental protections. He's going to slash all those. He's going to slash social programs. There's going to be more tax cuts for the rich and an effort to institutionalize Trumpism with like this Project 2025 stuff. But all of this would have happened, and I try to tell this to people, all of this would have happened under a Democratic president. It would happen under Biden, just a little bit slower. Because again, Democrats are putting National Guard into New York subways to crank down on pro-Palestine protests. Like, that's straight up a fascism. A Democrat's doing that. So like, it will happen slower under him, but that's the trend we're going in. So former President Trump, obviously we know he will not drain the swamp, for he is the swamp. But so is President Biden. So I guess now that we're kind of reconciling ourselves and psychically preparing ourselves emotionally, mentally, physically, for another 4 years of Trump and for things to get worse, because it's only going to get worse. I'm not sure that a Biden presidency would affect the overall end stage of however this ends. It's just going to happen faster under Trump. That's where I'm at right now on July 16th. My political opinions are dynamic. They change, but that's how I'm feeling right now.
No, I agreed on most of those points. I will say this, the glimmer of hope that I do see, there is a crack in the wall. And that is, I believe it is possible to get people on the right and Trump's base, at least some of Trump's base, the outskirts of Trump's base, at least, to bring them into the idea and a possibility that Trump is part of this deep state, this Zionist machine that is causing so many problems in the United States and abroad.
I just want to make one point. That is kind of like playing with fire, though, because if they believe the deep state is Zionist, they're going to be playing right into white supremacist tropes.
That's the balance we're working with. That's the tricky thing about all this, is that the belief that the Zionist machine is,
controlling everything,
the strings of power.
It's absurd from my perspective, but okay.
Yeah. And separating that from Jews is so important. Which is why I believe why I'm so impressed with the pro-Palestinian movement, because they're doing such a great job at bringing in Jewish voices to say, hey, look, Jews, Zionism, not the same thing. Most of Zionists are what? Evangelical Christians. So I don't think it's anti-Semitic to say that Zionism controls the strings of power, because most of the Zionists are Christians. They're not even Jews. And so I think that we have to do two fronts. We have two fronts. We have two battles we're fighting right now. We're battling the Zionist machine and telling the world about the Zionist machine controlling so much and having such a negative influence on our world, on our planet, and the United States government. And we're battling white supremacists and anti-Semitism, who wants to use that and instead shift the focus on Jews and not Zionists. So we're fighting two fronts, and I do think we're doing a great job of that. And yes, you're always going to have those fucking white supremacist anti-Semites who are going to be trying to latch onto the movement and be like, yeah, see, it's the Jews. But that's okay. Let those fucking psychos, like, we know who we can see them coming from a mile away. We're very discerning, and we're getting more and more trained in adapting to the, like, Candace Owens, for example. Great example.
Yeah.
A lot of people, a great example. Candace Owens, it's so interesting. It's so funny how she talks about Jews, but barely mentions the word Zionist.
Well, because she no, it's not. Candace Owen may be black, but she operates within the construct and the confines of white supremacy. That's how she makes her money.
She does.
By exploiting it. So she's actually saying a lot of anti-Semitic shit. That's not
and that's what I'm saying. What gives that away about Candace Owens is the fact that she doesn't use the word Zionist. It's so crazy to me. It's like, why would you use the word Jew and not Zionist? That's a no-brainer. She doesn't use the word Zionist. And I'm like, same with Kanye West. It was so funny. They approached Kanye West at the fucking airport and they said, "Hey, bro, what do you think about what's happening to people in Gaza?" He's like, "I don't know about all that right now, man. You got people dying in Chicago." I was like, what the fuck? You were just talking shit about Jews and you're being anti-Semitic. And it's like, but he won't mention Israel. And I'm like, I see what's going on here. I get it. I know what's going on here. What they're trying to do is they're trying to redirect the hate and vitriol against Zionism and shifting it over to Jews for the sake of keeping the cycle of white supremacy going. That's what's fucking happening. And it's like, I consider it like social judo. It's like you're using the momentum of the zeitgeist and you're trying to like use it and then turn the guy and make the momentum go a different direction. That's what's happening.
So, I mean, I'm glad you brought up white supremacy. This is what it's all about, This is all about.
It does. White
like,
corporate supremacy. No. Elite white supremacy, meaning they don't even give a shit about like the poor whites. They only give a shit about the top echelons of white society. That's what they care about. They don't even care about.
I think a Marxist Leninist like Alina might say, like, "Oh, can you separate white supremacy from the capitalist imperial core?" Probably not, because So I would agree with that as well.
And she's right. But
so
okay.
I think now that we're wrapping up, because I got to go hop on Bad Hasbara podcast. I think let's spend the next 3 minutes saying, like, what do you think actually happened? I'm sticking to my guns about it being a fuck up, an operational catastrophe, and police being incompetent. That's it. And I'm open to other ideas, but everything, the data set that I see based off my own experience, it does make sense, and it has the fewest moving parts, and it's the most simple explanation. So that's where I'm at. Where are you at?
I don't think it's incompetence. I don't think that, because you can be the most incompetent person on the planet and still see a goddamn ladder to a building and a guy carrying a rifle up there.
Not that just didn't even sweep it because they're lazy as fuck.
I mean, yeah, but it's like not that.
Okay.
If this was Chicago, downtown Chicago with like hundreds of windows, I would buy it. Yeah, I'd get lazy as fuck too. I'd be like, oh fuck, there's way too many windows to cover up there. Yeah, fuck it. Hey, clear. Everything's clear. Everything's clear. I would have gotten lazy with that, but this is like the simplest layout, So I don't know. I'm gonna go with the theory though. I'm not set here, but I'm just gonna go with the theory that this was a great way. It was just a great way to solidify emotional investment in Trump, because he was starting to lose a lot of faith because of his loyalty to his very obvious loyalty to Israel when he was up there on the stage with Biden. I think that was starting to become a trend on social media, and I think this canceled that and put a stop to it, put a cap on it. Great method. I would have done the same thing. If I was losing support like that, I would totally try to pull this off. But anyways, we're going to leave off on this right here. Okay, where you at?
Oh my God, where's the video?
Hold on.
Jesus.
It's coming. I don't know what's wrong.
Targets a 300-pound man, and how will I be able to distinguish him from the crowd? He'll be the only one elevated on a stage and standing behind a podium giving a speech. What about security? They literally don't care. Is he going to be moving? Completely motionless. How much time do I have? He'll just be standing there for hours. And how far away will I be? You'll be on a roof just a couple yards away. And how will I be able to tell it's him? He'll be the only one with a fucking microphone. And what do I do if anybody else is on the stage? There literally won't be. And how will I gain access to the building? It's going to be in a field. What if the first one I miss? You'll have 11 more chances. Anything else? He'll be wearing an obnoxiously bright red hat. And what's the weather going to be like? Broad fucking daylight. Okay. Seems pretty straightforward. It is. Easiest thing in the world. Exactly. Don't fuck this up. Ah, fuck, I missed. Target's a 300-pound man. And
Okay, so real quick, just have to respond to that real quick. Why would he do that? Because he knows he's gonna go in there dying. He didn't like have a sick dad or like a sick mom that he needed money for, or like didn't have any gambling debts. So yeah. Anyways, I think this is still very much a developing story. I'm not sure. If I would do a whole nother episode on it unless there's like a big development because
on Fridays. I'm sure we'll dive into it to get a little bit more humor out of it. And this is not to diminish the fact that somebody did die, that firefighter.
Yeah. So, thank you guys so much for listening. I think the big takeaway for this is get ready for another 4 years of Trump and things to get a lot worse. So, hey, if you got some vacation days before November and some paid time off, go ahead and take it because we're going downhill with no breaks. Thank you so much for watching Colonial Outcast, and we'll see you again in a few days. Cheers, y'all.